Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing.
Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 361 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. So, are you a watcher? I hope after this episode you will be. Now, I'm not talking about being a creepy watcher of other people. I'm talking about something very different from that. Have you ever driven to work and don't have any idea how you actually got there because you're on autopilot? You were so in your head, so lost in your thoughts. That's kind of scary when you do that, isn't it? How about having full conversations with someone in your head, arguments and conflicts that are totally made up? Or maybe subtle, unconscious thoughts about your weight or your hair or your looks in general, all without really being aware of those thoughts. They're just kind of looming all the time. We do it a lot. We get so lost in our thoughts that we're completely in our head, and we go on autopilot in the outside world. I had an experience recently that reinforced for me that I have lots of work to do. So I have a pretty similar routine every single morning. When we're not out of town, and when I'm at home, I have a very normal routine that I have. I get up, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, then I go downstairs and I turn on all the lights the way I want them around the house, because why not be in the most beautiful surroundings possible if you can? Anyway, after I do that, I start my coffee and start getting out my turkey, bacon, and eggs to cook. And I do all of this in total silence, just waking up. I like the quiet because it's so peaceful. But with the quiet, depending on what's going on, sometimes it can mean that the thoughts in your head become kind of loud. Most of the time, they're just back there and we're unaware of them. But when it's quiet, it allows them to be noticed by you. And we have automatic thoughts that sometimes are so crazy, you wonder where they came from. But those thoughts and all the other thoughts, they're always there. We just aren't usually noticing them. All right, so this certain morning, though, my thoughts were on my upcoming family reunion that my aunt has put together. So I'm going through my morning routine on autopilot, and I'm completely lost in my thoughts about seeing everyone and how it was going to be. I was just gone, totally lost in my head, to the point where I put the egg carton back in the refrigerator before I even got any eggs out. So still lost in my thought fog, I go back to the refrigerator and I get the carton of eggs back out, only to realize I actually had gotten 2 eggs out after all and had already cracked them into the bowl. This is bad. And all of a sudden, I woke up and I was like, what are you doing? You are completely gone, completely lost in your thoughts. I was so lost in my thoughts, I didn't remember doing any of that. And then I realized the thoughts that I had been having, and they were not good. I was having these conversations with a certain member of my family, and I was letting them know how I felt. Let me tell you. Oh man, I told you guys I still have work to do there. If you listen regularly, you probably know what I'm talking about. But once I stepped back and I noticed and I watched what was happening in my head, I realized I really need to do some more thought work on this. Now, I did give myself credit for noticing it and then changing the direction of those thoughts. But seriously, our thoughts will have us ready to take someone on even though they may not have done a thing. Am I right? But the quiet, though, that quiet allowed me that revelation that I was creating a problem in my head with a family member. If I had music playing or the news on or the TV going, I would never have been aware of that thought conversation. It would be there, I just wouldn't be aware of it. Think about that. If you're always needing to have background noise, are you maybe running from your thoughts? Are you afraid to be alone with them? I know it's scary, but it's also important to be aware. Otherwise, those thoughts just stay sort of jumbled up, creating tension and pressure. I mean, we have thoughts about everything we see all day long. It's hard to look at something without having a thought about it, isn't it? But I think it's even harder to be aware of the thoughts we're actually having. And those thoughts are the reason we feel the things we do. And those feelings are the reasons we do the things we do. And the things we do, that's what gives us the results in our life. That's everything. And the scary part is most of our thoughts we aren't aware of, like my conversation with my family member. If I hadn't put the eggs away weirdly, would I have become aware of my negative conversation? Or would I have just rolled right into enjoying my breakfast that I made, not knowing I had planted seeds of a possible confrontation? That's why I think it's a really, really good idea to be able to know what's going on in our head. When studies show that we have 70,000 thoughts a day, literally, and 80% of them are negative, I think that's a good thing to know. No wonder we walk around mad or hurt or disgusted with ourselves or scared all the time. Our brain is literally doing that to us and we don't even know it. I mean, why am I having an argument in my head with someone over something they did 5 years ago? Or why am I having negative thoughts about someone I love? And what is that doing to my life? Those are good questions. I mean, we have thoughts about our partners. We have thoughts about ourselves. We have thoughts about our jobs or our friends or our family all the time. And if 80% of them are negative, it is no wonder we feel miserable or we're picking fights more often than not. It's because our thoughts are affecting every single thing we do. That's why we have to become a watcher. Forget being a watcher of social media. You've got enough entertainment going on in your head for a lifetime of social media content, right? Of course, most of it you wouldn't want to put out for the world to see. But it doesn't have to be this way. Being intentional and becoming aware allows us to counteract those negative thoughts. But in order to do that, we got to know we're having them. I mean, that's why we need to become a watcher of our own thoughts. Because we're separate from our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. They're actually a separate thing from us. But the results that you get in your life are in direct correlation with your thoughts. I said in episode 360, we often think our way out of coals. But we also think our way into arguments, depression, super anxiety, hatred, fear, without it ever hitting the intentional part of our brain so that we actually know we can change it. I mean, we wonder why we're not attracted to our partner anymore but our subtle thoughts are constantly focused on their faults. So of course we don't want to be romantic with them when we've spent the day beating them up in our head or picking them apart in our head. We wonder why we don't want to fix ourselves up and really dress up when we go out when we've spent the last 10 years telling ourselves how fat we are and how disgusted we are with our body or hair or skin. So why bring attention to it by dressing up? We really just want to hide. And we wonder why we've lost joy in our work when we've subtly been hating on our boss and our coworkers for the last year to the point where we can't wait to find a new job. It all goes back to our thoughts. But so many of those thoughts are automatic. Does that mean we're doomed to a life of misery? No, it does not. Because the more intentional you become, the more aware you are of those thoughts. They aren't going to go away, but your ability to see them and deal with them can get better every single day. And they can be softened. They can be somewhat muted. The more intentional your thoughts are, the less your automatic thoughts have a chance to cause you problems. So when you're feeling a certain way about something, notice the reason why. It has everything to do with your thoughts about it and not a whole lot to do with the thing. Things are neutral until you have a thought. Situations are neutral until you have a thought. Now, I'm going to give you an example of that. So let's say you find out a friend you used to have died a year ago, and all of a sudden you're really sad. Now, your friend's been gone for a year without you being sad, so it's not the friend's dying. It's the thought you had about it that makes you sad. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to be sad. Of course, you're going to be. I'm just making a point that it wasn't the event of them dying, because until you had a thought about it, you weren't sad. You see, you're separate from your thoughts. The more you're aware of that, the better it is that you can watch them and notice how they're affecting your life. I'm glad I had that weird experience with my ex because it woke me up to the thoughts I was having. But it also told me I have lots of work left to do in challenging the thoughts that are not serving me. Now, that work is done for me through meditation, which does more for observing my thoughts than any other thing I know. That work is done in journaling, where we can set an intention for the day, but also put thoughts on a course of gratefulness. And that work is done in what you allow in your head, the content you read, the shows you watch, and the people that you hang out with. Most people have never tried to watch their inner thoughts. Now, partly because they don't even know it's a thing, but you're not most people. You're working on being the best version of you that's possible. I know that because you keep coming back here and we're doing this together. My challenge to you today is to at least once this week, catch yourself creating something in your head that isn't going to serve you and lightheartedly acknowledge it and then process how that will affect you if you keep thinking that thought. That's a good thing to know. And then come up with your own plan to start being more aware of those 70,000 thoughts you're having. How can you be more intentional? How can you become more grateful? How can you become more of a watcher? Not in a creepy way. Share this with 3 people you love. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.